Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for stopping by. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at our next topic, which is referred to as botnet traffic filtering, or more specifically, botnet detection and filtering. Now, if you've never heard of this or you're not familiar with the capability, basically what this does is this allows the ASA to get into the ability of communicating outbound to Cisco to download a database that will allow the ASA to look at traffic that is coming inbound from the endpoints that are protected by the ASA and compare the DNS entries that they're seeing, compare those DNS lookups to known botnet traffic sources. So any command and control destinations out on the internet that the endpoint might be trying to connect to. If it detects that that endpoint is trying to reach out to any of these botnet command and control servers out on the internet, it will actually go ahead and kill that connection and prevent that traffic from actually going out there and talking to the botnet servers. So what this actually will allow us to do is mitigate the problem if there is one. Now, as we dive through here, this will not work first and foremost. So if you're thinking we're actually going to have a practical implementation, we will not have a practical implementation. I will go through the configuration and some of the show commands to make it actually happen, but actually seeing issues and stuff like that, I'm not going to do that. So this requires us to have access to the internet. So I already did a show run DNS, and we have the default DNS server group, default DNS. It's already set up, and we have to make sure that we can ping 8.8.8.8. If we can ping Google DNS, really just any DNS server that will allow us to resolve a specific URL. And we'll talk about that URL here in a moment. But there's two databases. There's one database that we'll download from Cisco, and there's another user-defined database. So there's a blacklist and a whitelist that we can create and configure to allow specific access to a known destination if it's something we actually have to connect to. So we'll go through the configuration, but first of all, if you need to have a license enabled for this, and if you're on the ASAP, you automatically have this. So we'll do a show version and go all the way down to the bottom here. And what you're looking for here is this botnet traffic filter. The license is enabled, so we'll be able to go and go through the process. Again, this won't work. We won't actually have any malware or anything that's detected by the by botnet traffic filtering, because we won't be actually talking to it. But this is more just to walk you through the config. So we got to go to global config first. And one of the first things we have to do is turn on the dynamic filter capability. And there's a number of things we can add here. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the updater client, and we're going to enable this capability. So we do that. And then the next thing we're going to do is say we're going to use a database. Now there's two different databases that we can use. We're going to be using just the dynamic database. So we're going to type that in. That's going to go and allow us to configure that. Now, the next thing we're going to do, and this is where it ties into advanced capability, we're going to do a show run policy map. And underneath here, this is going to be done underneath the preset DNS policy map, which is right here. So underneath this particular policy map, we're going to, not underneath this itself, the type inspect, we're going to go underneath this level here, and we're going to add a statement to it. But when we do this, go ahead and pull this up real quick and go do this. We're going to right click and copy and paste this in, and if we type in dynamic filter snoop and hit the enter key, it's actually going to bug out on us. So what we actually have to do is we have to whack that, take the dynamic filter snoop out, Control A, type in no DNS preset DNS map. Then we have to hit the up arrow a couple times and then apply it with both, or else it won't take it. Now that we have that done, we can go ahead and exit out of here, and then we'll type in the dynamic filter, and then we have to enable the capability. So enable dynamic filter classification, we'll type in enable, and then we will hit the up arrow, and the last but not least, we'll type in drop. So enable traffic drop based off of dynamic filter traffic classification. We'll type in that, and then we'll say blacklist traffic, and we will come in and we'll specify an interface level, interface of outside, and that's it. There's other things that we can do, but this is basically the initial implementation, and there we go. So now it's all configured. So now one of the things we're going to do is we're going to show dynamic filter, and we're going to come in here and type in update our client and hit the enter key. So what this is going to tell us is that it was enabled, and the server that we reached out to was https update-manifest.ironport.com. Ironport is a platform that Cisco came out with. I believe it was actually as an acquisition a number of years ago. It's got to be getting close to about 10 years ago now, or maybe a little bit less than that. But it came out, and Ironport was the web. It's like a web secure email security type deal, and stuff like that. So we have that. And if you're ever curious to see what the data looks like, if we type in data and hit the enter key, this is some of the stuff that it's looking for. And it's a little bit hard to decipher when you first look at it, but there are different levels of threat level. We have very high malware, high for botnet, or bot and threat networks. We have a moderate for malware. We have low for category of ads, and so on and so forth. So what this would allow us to do is this would allow us to see what it's looking for in terms of inspection. So there's some stuff in here. I haven't tested any of this out, but if you're interested in looking at some of the files that it's looking at, you could come in here and take a look at some of the things that it's looking at and maybe try to connect to it to try to simulate this stuff. But it does seem to change on a pretty routine basis, because I'm not seeing the China, the site that I was seeing before. There was a .cn extension, but this will update as it periodically goes. There's some data in here that will get updated as you're going along. As a matter of fact, I took a note of this, and this database is actually a little bit newer than the database that I was playing with. But if we were to come through here, you could play around with it and get some ideas as to how it actually comes into play. Now, some of the other aspects of this is the statistics page. And if we were to look through here, what we're going to see is we should see all zeros. All zeros means that there's nothing being picked up on any of the interfaces, because this is a globally applied filter. So it's applied to the global policy. So all traffic coming inbound on the ASA is going to get inspected. Now, if there was a detection, you would see what it is. You would see the connections that it classified, ingress and egress. And then if it whitelist, graylist, or blacklist, and stuff like that. So there's that. Now, there are other databases and stuff like that that you could leverage if you wanted to, but we're going to just stay with the dynamic one. Now, last but certainly not least is going to be reports, and we can type in infected hosts, and we can say all. If there were infected hosts, you would see this right here. So if malware or botnet communication was detected, then the ASA would be able to jump in there and start to mitigate that and prevent that stuff from happening. We don't have anything infected in our environment, which is a good sign, but this is basically how this would come into play. So that's pretty much it for botnet traffic filtering. It's a small section. And in the next video, we should be able to dive into threat detection and then knock out our QoS after that. Until next time, guys, thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll catch you in the next one, and take it easy.